Hello and welcome everyone. Good to see you. Welcome on into day 7 of the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge with me, Sam Peterson. We're going to be jumping into a new challenge today, and that is sci-fi portraits. So if you want to check out these challenges, if you want to see the whole page, the landing page, go to behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. This is what it looks like when you go there. You will see the big blue button at the top here. It says, "Hi, take the challenge." Click that to register. If you scroll down, you'll see all the challenges we've done thus far. And if you click watch video, you can watch the replay. If you click get started, you can get the starter files for all those challenges. And if you scroll down here, you'll see today's challenge, sci-fi portrait. We're going to be creating a sci-fi portrait using neural filters and masks. So check that out, register there. You can also post on the Discord if you want to share any of your designs that you do. If you want to get feedback, give feedback. If you want to ask questions, there's an ask a question section down here. Let me move over here. You'll see advice, ask a question, feedback, challenge. There's sections for past challenges as well. So a lot of stuff you can post on there. Very active Discord, so definitely check it out. It's the place we're all active on when we're not streaming here on Behance. So we got Valdair, we got Ted, we got mentors in the chat giving feedback. Lots of really awesome designs. Great job, everybody. We will probably take a look at that more towards the end of the stream. But for now, let's jump into the challenge. So today's challenge, like I said, is sci-fi portrait. And what we're going to be doing is just taking a portrait, playing with the neural filters, and then kind of adding some elements to make them look sort of, I don't know, cyborg-ish, robotic, something like that. Kind of a Terminator 2 effect. So that should be a lot of fun, but first things first, I want to duplicate my layer. So I have one layer here, it's the background, Control J to duplicate it. And we're going to do the same thing we did on previous challenges where we separate the portrait or the foreground from the background, just to give us more flexibility when we're working. So I'm going to get my quick selection tool, hotkey W up here on the left. And I'm going to do select subject right here at the top. Also, I want to say hi to everyone. Valdair, Chad, Cody. Oh, what's up, everybody? Sean, welcome back. We got Ted, Christine, Frank. Did I say Steve? We got Steve. Good to see everyone. Carol. Kirsty, Jennifer, Stony. Good to see everyone. Welcome back. So I did select subject here at the top. You can see it got a pretty decent selection, but it didn't quite get the hair here, so I'm going to hold on Shift and just continue to select, see if I can get like that outside edge of the hair. And then I'm holding on Alt to negate the selection, to subtract from the selection rather. Add, Shift, subtract, Alt. Just kind of go back and forth until I got a decent selection. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to do select and mask to refine it now. And I don't like the edge of the hair. That's the only thing I'm seeing. It looks pretty good, but the hair looks kind of rough. And this is a tool we've talked about previously, Refine Edge Brush Tool. I like this a lot. I'm going to be holding it right around the outside of the hair. I find I get a little bit better selections when I do that. So the background's really close to the color of the hair around these areas. So let me try this a couple times. It sometimes has difficulty when you really start getting those soft edges because it's out of focus and when it becomes very similar color. Now that looks all right. I'll do it to this one. We can always go in and clean up the mask after, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. Maybe on like his facial hair here. Yeah, I like that. That's good enough. Click OK right at the bottom right. Click Create a Mask, the little button below the layers, Add Layer Mask, the rectangle with the dot in it. And now we have our cutout selection. It looks pretty rough. So you can go into the mask here, this black and white area, and you can paint with black to conceal, white to reveal. So I want to reveal more of the hair here. So I'm just going to kind of touch up this edge. And you can spend a lot of time doing this if you really want that clean mask. There's a lot of great like kind of automated tools. And then there's a lot of manual refining you can do. Got rid of the ear here, so I'll just paint that back in. A little bit of the hair. But other than that, I think it's pretty good to go. Yeah, I think that's good. So what I want to do next, I'm hiding that layer, and now this is my duplicated layer. So this is going to be our background layer. So I want to select right around the face here. It doesn't need to be a clean selection, doesn't need to be super close, but just something like that. And now what I'm going to do is, again, we go to Edit, Content Aware Fill, another technique we've used on previous streams, which is really, really quick and helpful. So it wants me to sample the background. That's what that little message was. So I'm just going to go and paint in the whole thing. It's just a gradient, so this is really not a complex background compared to a lot of the things we could use Content Aware Fill for. So I'm just going to click OK. And you can see there's a bit of a seam. Our portrait will be covering that, but if it is something that bothers you, with a big gradient, super easy. I'll just make a big brush, color select the lighter part, put it over the seam, click a couple times. Maybe color select the darker part, click over the seam a couple times. And that's really how blending works in digital painting. You select the darker tone, you put it in the middle, you select the lighter tone, put it in the middle, kind of blend them together. Let's see here. Oh no! Is that was there an alert, Chad? That shouldn't be a thing. Let's see here. So, next up, I think I'm going to merge these two together. Just merge the background. Hey, Robert, how's it going? Welcome on in. Is General Kenobi here? Welcome, General. All right, so we got our background and we got our foreground here. It's looking pretty good. So next what I want to do is create a, turn the portrait layer into a smart object. So I'm going to right click the layer, whoops, not the left part, but just the text, right click that, convert to smart object. And now when we apply neural filters, we'll be able to tweak it after the fact if we want to, non-destructively. So go up to the top at filter and you'll see neural filters right here. And then you'll see the tabs here, featured filters, but if you go into beta filters, you'll see smart portrait. Now you can play around with a lot of neural filters. Today we're going to be doing smart portrait, which is a lot of fun. I'm sure many of you have seen this because we've had challenges with it in the past. But I think it's just kind of a fun, automated way to quickly customize and change a portrait if you want to. Maybe the portrait you're using is, perfect. It's exactly what you want. But for me, I thought maybe we could play around with it and have some fun. So I think I'm going to try to, let's see here. Maybe we'll make him less happy. He's a cyborg, He's all business. I don't know, maybe cyborgs are supposed to be happy. I'm not sure what alternate world we're working within. And you can see it's loading at the top right. This goes to the cloud and it's all AI driven, so it takes a little while to process. But I'm gonna make him a little bit angry. Set a bit. So I'm gonna try like midway, maybe 22, 23. And I'm just gonna let it load at the top. You'll see it's kind of processing. So that's interesting, it just did it. I kind of like what it did with the mouth. It looks a little bit more like, I don't know, this kind of blank stare. I'm going to crank this all the way up. You can kind of play sliders and just see what happens. I mean, that's a lot of the fun. It's this kind of free changes you get. So there's maxed out age. We'll go young now, see how that contrasts it. So you can kind of see what it's doing. I kind of liked that way. I think we had it like 23. That's how the mouth is slightly open because of the anger. I think this kind of slightly aged look looks good. You can play with hair thickness, all these things. I kind of like the result we have now, so I might just use that. That looks a little odd. Let's do thinner hair, see what happens. I'm going to unclick hair thickness. I kind of like what we had. We had a pretty good in between. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that. I like those changes. And at this point, if you don't like, you see how since we have a smart filter for the smart object, I can toggle that on and off. If you don't like any of these areas, like I don't like this, what it did with the contrast in his head. I think it was trying to make his hair look a little more gray, but the contrast looks off. I'm going to go on the mask for smart filters, and paint black to hide that part. Any part I don't like, toggle that on and off. I really like the contrast on the shirt there, just paint into that. Sometimes it does this double overlapping thing, so you can just paint like that. Whoops, I gotta be on there. Yeah, there we go. Kind of see how the neck is overlapping. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. All right, so we kind of played with that. And actually one thing I noticed too is there's like some double image going on in the nostrils. So I'm just gonna hide that because that looks a little odd. There we go. So I like where we are with this now. Truck it along with the neural filters. Yeah, depending on your computer, it might take, a little longer or shorter to load. So the next step is let's put some like Terminator 2 robot parts on him. So I'm gonna create a mask, just a new layer, normal layer, call it mask. I like to name my layers, and I'm just gonna take my lasso tool here and kind of create the shape where I want the robotic parts to be showing. And you can subtract with Alt, add with Shift like we were talking about before. But just kind of create whatever shape here on the face that you want. So I'm gonna do one on the cheek as well. I think forehead and cheek. You can look up references, kind of see what that Terminator effect looks like. First Series doesn't have to be like this. You could add parts like an antenna on them. Really it's just kind of compositing these robot parts together. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. Maybe something like that. I'm gonna press G to get my fill, my paint bucket to fill it. It doesn't matter what color I use. I just want to use like a dark color that's easy to see. Control D to deselect. And that looks pretty good. Excuse me. So from here we can kind of like edit it in any way. I think it looks kind of unusually digital with how sharp it is. So I might do something like filter. Maybe we can do like a Gaussian blur. And I think 2 pixels works pretty well. You can check the preview on and off to see how much it's affecting it. I just don't want it to look quite as digital as it does, but I don't want it to be too soft. So I think 2 looks pretty good. Yeah, it gives us a nice natural look that's a little bit more in the focus of the rest of his face and skin. From here, I have a section on the file called Assets. Now, this is basically a bunch of engine parts. You can get creative and have fun with it, like any sort of mechanical looking stuff that you can find, machinery, I'm sure like steam engines. I just typed in engines and I got all these. And I want you to go through and find parts that you think could look robotic, This is the fun with compositing a lot of the time. So I think something like this might be good for his head. If we're looking for like a big curved part for his forehead, I'll just take the quick selection tool. And it's really rough. Like this is kind of a technique called, well, it's referred to sometimes as photo bashing, a lot of times in concept art, where you take a lot of images, you collage them together, and then you kind of blend them after the fact. It's very quick and messy. So I'm just going to Control C, whoops, make sure I have that layer selected, and then Control V. So what you can do here is you can rotate it, you can hold on Shift to do in increments. You can free transform it, hold Control, grab one of these points, warp it like that. You can actually use warp by going up to, if you go to, let's see, where's warp? There we go. So edit, transform, warp. I have it hotkeyed to F4, so I use that. You can warp it into place. You can kind of do whatever you want. You can scale it, rotate. But once you got it in a place you like, you can right click that layer and do create clipping mask. It'll clip it to the mask we created below. And now you can really see where exactly you want it. You can warp it into place and adjust it and do all these things. Hey, what's up, Norsh? Good to see you. Yeah, steampunk. Could totally go for like a less modern or futuristic sort of steampunk look. That would be really cool to see. So go through these assets, cut different things out. I was thinking the jaw might have like a lot of little pistons and things to open and lower the jaw. So any sort of like long pieces that might look like that or wires, just look through mechanical stuff and see if you can imagine like where would that be used. Now, I don't want to do this all on stream because it would actually take up pretty much the majority of the 30 minutes because you can really go through and just have fun with it and kind of collage them on. But let me show you the pieces I already arranged for myself and I'll explain kind of what they are. So these are my pieces. Going through one by one. These are all from the photo. So I took this piece, I darkened it down. That piece I just showed you for the forehead. Actually, let's delete that. Some of these. That piece I just showed you. Some like wires. This metal bar that kind of looks like a gear, or not a gear, but like a piston or something like that. And then this little thing, I don't know. Not sure what it is. I thought it looked kind of cool. So if we take those, I'll actually duplicate this just so I can keep those intact. I'm gonna ungroup them. Just put those to keep it organized. And I'm gonna clip all these to that mask. They're all selected. Do create clipping mask. And there we go. Get a drink of water. I feel like I got a rough voice going here. All right, so the next thing to do is to kind of blend it in a little bit more, make it look like it actually belongs in terms of lighting and everything. So I think that looks pretty good as is. I love all these little pieces. I think that looks pretty good. One thing I might do is create a multiply layer. We talked about this in previous streams. I just love multiply layers. So I've probably done one in like every stream, but it's just a very quick go-to shadow for me. So I'm gonna create a multiply layer and clip that to the same mask. Choose my kind of mid-tone, very desaturated bluish tone for my shadow. And just kind of, paint in a shadow. So the light is coming from the top left, or at least from the left as we can see. So I may darken it a little bit on the right side of this stuff. And it's overlapped with this face. So, maybe near the bottom, the light fades off a bit. Where it overlaps, this is kind of that ambient occlusion effect that we've talked about so much, where objects are overlapping or touching. A lot of times there's this very more intense shadow. So right around the edges there, I can do it up here too. You see that? It's kind of that ambient occlusion shadow. So it looks more like there's something overlaid on top of that. Like it's touching or just about touching. But you can really sort of like play with the direction. Maybe at the bottom here, it's a little bit darker than at the top. That's kind of cool. And then what I want to do is its counterpart is a color dodge layer. Create a color dodge layer. And I use this for lighting, yet another one I've talked about. If I talk about multiply layers, you're probably going to hear me talk about color dodge right after. I always use them together. One to light, one to darken. Hey, Umacorn, Mercurial, welcome on in. Good to see you. So here I just want to emphasize that the light is coming from the top. So I just want to add a little bit more to the top layer there, and it kind of evens it out with the shadows down below, the lighting up top. It kind of unifies these assets a bit more. Maybe right in the middle, some lights getting in to this, around the top part of it. And if I want to, I can always go back to the mask and, paint into this. Maybe I'll use like a more textured brush or something. But I can always add to it. Maybe like there's some little slashes or little bits and pieces here, like there was an explosion or something. I just don't think it would be perfectly smooth, right? So the The lasso tool is great for getting that initial big shape and figuring out what that is, but you know, it might be worth roughing up the edge a bit here, just so it doesn't look so like cut out paper, so smooth. So feel free to play around with your mask, you know. That's what's great about the mask, is you can always edit it after the fact. You could create a completely different shape as long as you have the materials underneath, the photos underneath to cover that mask. You know, you can kind of go crazy with it. So maybe something like that. That looks kind of fun. Let's see, what do we want to do next? So we got the multiply layer for the shadow, the color dodge for the light, got a little bit of ambient occlusion. Let me see, how much time have we got? We got a few minutes. I think we could even add a little bit more dimension. So if we go under the face layer, just basically, or I'm sorry, under the mask layer, but on top of the face, we could create another multiply layer. And if you want to give this like some dimension, let me choose a airbrush. You usually have like a little ridge. You know, like if that skin is kind of three-dimensional, you might have this little edge, kind of beveling it, I guess is the effect that I'm going for. Just the area facing away from the light, just so it looks like it's kind of curved down a little bit, if that makes sense. And on the flip side, maybe we'll do like a new adjustment layer, exposure, just to brighten it up. And then clip that. Actually, no, we don't need to clip it, but we'll go into the mask, fill that in with black to hide all of it, and then just paint in the white where we want. And that can be kind of like this edge is catching light. Now you can always adjust the layer after the fact, so if you made it too bright, you can just adjust the slider for the exposure. But basically, you can create a shadow for the part facing, the edge facing away from the light, and a little light for the edge facing it, and get a little bit of like a bevel effect for a little bit more dimensionality. All right, we got a couple minutes. Let's do this real quick. I think it's not really like a robot without a red eye. So let's try something like an overlay layer. And maybe I will make one of his eyes robotic. I think this one could be cool. I'm just gonna use the, if you go up here, you'll see the elliptical marquee tool. And what's fun about this, this is a little trick that not everyone knows, but you can hold on shift to make it uniform. But if you want to reposition it, you can hold on spacebar. So you can reposition, resize, reposition. That's not something I actually always knew with this tool, so just in case anyone didn't know, it's very useful. Let's fill that in with like red. Let's try like a really saturated red. Ah, perfect. And I will just you can mask it off. I'll just delete it, doing this quickly. And let's see. We'll do a color dodge layer to make it glow. Soft round brush with a color dodge layer. Let's try that out. Let's go like max saturation here. Maybe color dodge isn't what we want. I think that's pretty good though. All right, so last but not least, I gotta wrap it up, but I do want to do let's do an adjustment layer for color lookup. I think the lighting looks a little too off to me. So color lookup is a great way to get some nice effects, nice looks. You can just scroll through them here, see what works. You know, see if anything kind of fits the mood you're going for. That's kind of cool. Not enough contrast for me. That's kind of neat. I like that contrast. I think there's one that's perfect for this though. And that is it. Now I don't know if I want that dramatic, But that horror blue works pretty well. Maybe we can just ease that off for kind of like this cinematic look. So there's some effects that you can do just to create like a sci-fi portrait. I think the masking and the photo bashing is really like the fun part. If you guys just want to experiment with that, get creative with it. You don't have to do this exactly, but playing around with neural filters to adjust a portrait and just make some changes to suit what you want, and then playing around with some masking and some photo bashing and stuff like that to create an effect like this. Anyway, I hope that was helpful for you guys. I hope that was fun. I look forward to seeing what you create in the Discord. If anyone hasn't checked out the Discord, check it out because there's a lot of amazing entries being put in here. Really impressed with the work you guys are doing, like always. I love this one by Sparky. Those glowing horns are super cool. And I'll be checking these out. We have 2 weeks where there's just replays of these same daily creative challenges. So I'll be in the Discord during those 2 weeks. Keep submitting entries. I'll be there giving feedback, all that stuff, checking it out. But just a heads up to everyone, there are 2 weeks of replays. So it gives you a little bit more time to work on these challenges if you need it. But great work, everyone. Thanks so much for coming out today. I will see you next time.